walking is all of the medicine, energy, and movement that you need. And to answer and bring us an incredible perspective, facts, and science, we have two, well, Dr. Lemmon, of course, co-hosting with me, and we have our dearest colleague and genius at coaching in motion, Youssef Skalli. And welcome, gentlemen. Let's talk about walking.
Thank you, Dr. Carolina. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So your strategy, which I love, you actually do your coaching while walking. So when you're talking about coaching in motion, you're not kidding. It's like you're literally walking the talk.
Absolutely. It is literally coaching in motion. So first, I'm Youssef Skalli. I am an intentionally human values inspired empowerment coach. And I insist on the intentionally human part because I think nowadays it's really very important for us to realize that we are coming back to our humanity and we need it more than ever. And part of it also of being human is to be active, to move our body, to connect our body, our mind, and our heart. So over the years, as part of my empowerment coaching, I introduced a format that I call, and you mentioned it, Dr. Carolina, coaching in motion, which is exactly literally coaching in motion, where coaching conversations happens while I'm working side by side with the clients. So that creates a shift in the energy. First, the energy between us, the interaction or the exchange of energy between me and the client. But most importantly, is the shift in the energy in the client's mind and heart. And we know that movement helps to shift the energy. And when the energy shifts, the perspective shifts too. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm coming from.
And they do say that that emotions are energy in motion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I strongly believe, and Dr. Lemon for sure can add to that, is that if we think about emotions, they're an energy in motion that moves through our body, that moves through our mind. And we tend to think about emotions as a thought rather than an energy. But actually, the thought comes much later than the emotion itself that we feel in our body. And that's why I say that the emotions are really energy that it's going through our bodies, our hearts, and our minds.
What is happening to us? Yeah, Dr. Lemon, let's hear the science.
Yeah,
Um,
such a genius thing to combine the walking and that physical movement with the mental coaching movement. You have the breath, the oxygen coming in and out. You're getting more oxygen and glucose to your brain, more creativity, more blood flow to the frontal cortex. So you have that expanded creativity, expanded energy. And just more ATP production for all the physical needs in the body and brain. And it's just a really genius way of doing it. And we have the really interesting field of study related to brain gym. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but just the whole cross lateral motions when you're walking, when you're moving.
no, I haven't heard about that.
Legs in opposite motion like you do when you walk. That helps synchronize and connect the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So there's a lot of exercises they do for kids with dyslexia called brain gym that are kind of exercises to connect and cross the right and left sides of the body to help synchronize the right and left hemispheres of the brain to help with that. So walking naturally does that. And so it's just another layer that helps with the coaching aspect.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That bilateral movement and rhythm that you mentioned, Dr. Lim, is really important. And it also helps to create a mental clarity while we are working. I would just like to redirect our viewers to the WOFM magazine, where we had an article that detailed the
Yes.
the impact of that, and it describes what Dr. Lemon just mentioned. So I will really encourage that we may put the link later on. But the other thing I would like to add, in addition to what Dr. Lemon mentioned, it's that I strongly believe that as a human, we are not wired to spend our life sitting and processing
Mm.
our thoughts in a sitting in a desk in front of a screen. We are more wired to be active. That's how our ancestors have been wired. That's how we are wired. And I started seeing with my clients that, and I love one that like testimony that stuck with my mind, where I was working with a client and he told me, he stopped suddenly and he said, "Wow, that's the first time I am speaking about my career and my emotions without feeling boxed in." And that expression of being boxed in, it stays in my mind. I repeat it to myself every day, because simply that's the natural way to the not be boxed in. We are not creatures to be in a box, and that's the same thing for our energy is a flow, and so our emotions and our thoughts. So the moment we are limiting everything to a screen, to chair, to still environment, it's just counter intuitive, right?
It's sedentary, right? They do say that sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah,
I don't know how factual that is, but what I was wondering, Yusuf, is, when I walk with my friends, it just seemed to be, like truth comes out in walking. Like you begin to walk and you're like chatting, talking, and we end up discussing things that honestly, if we had intentionally said, okay, we're going to get together and talk about these, I don't know if we would. You know what I mean? Like it just, do you
absolutely,
find that doing that coaching and exchange of ideas while
absolutely.
moving, does it bring down barriers and self
Oh,
censorship?
absolutely. That's actually what led me to introduce this format of coaching into my practice. The the main thing that I was noticing, especially with men, without being gender biased, I do it with all genders, but especially with men, that the face to face. That's one aspect. There are multi dimensions to that, but one dimension is the face to face, whether in person or in screen. It feels confrontational. It feels judgmental.
Mhm.
Walking side by side and introducing the physical strength, even though walking doesn't require a lot of strength, but still in the male thinking, physical strength with emotional conversations, it just allow it to open up. That's one dimension. So there is that, no screens, no pressure, just open thoughts, and the fact of walking side by side. It makes a whole difference. Now, for all my clients, they come to me and they say, "Well, it has been a long time. I didn't feel lighter. I didn't feel that I am processing my thoughts in a lighter manner. I'm not confronting my thoughts." The third dimension is the natural environment. So I'm based in Ottawa, in Ontario, Canada, and I do my work across the canal and Ottawa River. And the fact that just looking at the mother nature, what it has to
Mhm.
offer us around us, and there are endless metaphors that we use in our conversations. So when
Oh,
a
wow.
thought is really being stuck in one idea, we just turn our eyes around us and then see the water flowing. Even when it faces obstacles, it just continues to move forward. We see how the trees react to the wind and how they adapt with the wind. So that's what led me also to introduce in my coaching. It starts with coaching in motion and then introduce it to move beyond the emotional regulation to the emotional adaptability, which is the step further. So that walking and that openness of the thoughts that you mentioned, Dr. Carolina, is the key element. It's the foundation behind why I started doing that.
Yeah.
Uh,
You've been a
and
pioneer in
I didn't start earlier, actually.
and you've been such a pioneer in men's mental health. Now, Dr. Lemmon, do you find that men are a little bit more reluctant to address things like emotional, like before it has become a physical ailment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a spectrum, right? So you have some men that are outliers, but kind of that a typical stereotypical male. Sure, we have that more reluctance to work on ourselves and talk about our feelings and all that kind of thing. So it does have that time to build up and cause more stress, more illness, more mental illness. All those things can really pile up. But yeah, I just want to second from my personal experience. I haven't done any coaching in motion, but on that relationship aspect, when our previous house, we had more of a nice neighborhood loop that my wife and I would just always go on a walk around the neighborhood, and just that side by side walking, talking, holding hands is the most powerful relationship building, intimacy building tool that I've ever experienced in my 26 years of marriage. And so that yeah, just the combination of the motion, the conversation, the fresh air, the nature, all those layers, it's just such a beautiful tool for relationships, for coaching, for creative thinking, all those things. It just really does create that different level of vibration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I echo that. Yeah, sorry, Dr. Kain, I want just to echo that because while I see the benefit in my coaching, I see it also in every relationship. Even in my corporate career, I used to do my one-on-one meetings, walking with my team members, and it
wow.
just creates that openness. We just go out of the building, walk around the block, and that was all my one-on-one meetings were like that, and that's just creates that it's it, it's a certain level of bonding, but also it removes any tension layers, and it removes the perception of hierarchy for the moment, which creates more space to the conversation.
I agree. How do you walk in the winter? I mean, Ottawa, we're headquartered in Toronto. In Ottawa, I don't know if you've ever been, Dr. Lemmon, but you can experience all four seasons in one day. It is one of the most capricious weather systems that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, that's a very valid question for us based in the northern hemisphere. So for the past 3 years, I was doing coaching in motion only between May and October. So when the weather permits it, because it was mainly concentrated on outdoor. This year, I introduced even indoor walking and sometimes online walking, where I am walking somewhere where it is indoor. I have my headphones, so it can be either in the gym on the treadmill, and the person also choose their perfect environment for having that conversation. It's just because I think that walking is really the simplest way to that is accessible to large population, and it's the simple way to regulate our emotions. As Dr. Lemmon said, it creates a rhythm in our body, and it creates space in our mind and in our heart through the oxygen. And that leads to that clarity in the thoughts. So because I saw the benefits, and this year, so usually I say I do it from May to October. But this year, based on the request from my clients, I thought of adapting it to the ones who want it. So it's not the same frequency, it's not the same number of sessions, I would say. I limited it only to the ones who were open to do it, because it's very key. Even in the outdoor working session, each session is different. It's adapting to the rhythm of the client. So some they want a fast pace, some they want slow, some they want to have a break, some they prefer to work for 20 minutes and have 20 minutes coffee conversation. It's really adapting to the rhythm. So the idea again, and coming back to the relationship, even in friendship, in partnership, or whatever, when we face the tension in any relationship, and that's include with ourselves, our relationship to self, naturally what we try to do is to push through. So I'm just saying, with coaching in motion or with walking, just shifting a little bit. Instead of pushing through, walk through it and walk it through.
Yeah,
That's
and I could see it being a more flexible modality for, especially if you haven't worked out in a while, or if you haven't, you know, connected to your systems, to your breathing, to your heart. Now, Dr. Lemmon, is there anything that somebody who's been sedentary for a while and they're wanting to start walking, right? Like, is there any easing into, or anything that would like optimize the effort?
Hmm. Generally, walking is as mild as exercise as you can get. So if you're going miles and miles, obviously you want to just start slow and start with a block and then 2 blocks and 3 blocks, and just that gradual increasing of the length and the speed and things like that. But even most individuals, even if they have severe obesity issues, they can still walk at a slow pace and get the same benefits of that walking and coaching. But you do just have to take it a little bit slower and maybe not go as far. But that's I'm
The
curious.
ones I tried are the walking poles.
yes.
Have you ever seen them? They are so much fun, and they make you go so much faster when you're using them, right? Like, you can actually get quite the workout.
Hiking.
Yeah, yeah,
It's almost like
absolutely.
skiing, but they have like a rubber bottom, so you're kind of almost skiing, like cross country skiing, but on the ground. Is I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm sure I look very retarded, but it's pretty cool.
So I have 2 clients who brought that last summer, and it was good for them. So especially those who really want or are used to certain equipments, or are not used to just walk freehand.
Hmm.
So they prefer
Yeah,
that,
wait.
because again, coming back to the rhythm in the body, that will lead to the rhythm in the mind and the heart. Having that regular movement, it just helps them to keep moving forward. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yusuf, have you noticed any difference between the outdoor walking in the summer and the indoor or online walking? Do you lose a lot of benefits, or are you still noticing most of the same benefits?
Well, it's too early for me to assess that, because the clients with whom I started doing the indoor walking this year for the first time are already clients who benefited from the outdoor uh,
Hmm.
from the outdoor exercises. So we had a certain momentum that we kept moving forward. Now, for me, from my side, it's a huge difference, because as I was saying earlier, it's just walking outdoors, seeing people moving around, looking at nature, at water, at trees, and so it helps in the coaching conversation to turn it around what the nature around us rather than focusing on the client. So it helped the client to get out of
Their
mind
head.
to
Yeah.
head to really look around. And also it helps me and the client to keep reminding ourselves that whatever is going in our head, the world around us is much bigger.
Hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
And that idea or that thought that we have in our head is not the center of the world.
Yeah. And walking can be a form of active meditation as well, is walking without any stimuli, like walking without music, walking without, just walking, like being present and noticing things. That sometimes we can walk and drive by a street a million times and not notice things because we're so caught up on everything else, right? So that can be another great way of connecting and releasing, right?
That's
Releasing
so true.
tension.
Mindfulness in motion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I had like clients who were born in Ottawa who have been walking through the same pathways that we take in our walking sessions, and they tell me it's the first time I see the city that way.
There's times I go and walk. I know but anyways, I think everybody knows me by now. There's times I'm walking or driving and I'll notice a house that on a street that I drive by 500 times a day that I've never seen before. And it's just like, where did that come from? Right. And it's that we're so disconnected, right? Is so important to connect. Now, Dr. Lemon, how much is enough for it to have a system reboot? Is there a minimum amount?
Hmm. Yeah, they talk about at least 20 minutes 3 times a week is kind of the bare minimum. Every day walking is obviously the very, very best.
Does it have to be
When you think
10,000
about
steps?
the blue zones, the people living in the blue zones aren't going to the gym every day. They're living their lives. They're walking, they're traveling, going visiting friends, and working, doing farm work, walking to their shopping, their villages. So there's nothing wrong with going to the gym, but it's just not necessary when you have a busy, active life like the people in the blue zones. So if you can incorporate more
What
of
is
that
the
into
blue
your life.
zone? What
What's
is the
that?
blue zone, Dr. Lemon?
The longevity zones like Okinawa and Costa Rica, where they've studied, where they have lived the longest, have the highest proportion of people that live to 100.
Oh, wow.
So there's a book called The Blue Zones, and it's a kind of a big movement where they have communities that are incorporating and becoming blue zones approved cities to be more friendly for walking and biking and eating whole foods and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a great book if you haven't experienced that. But yeah, it's just that lifestyle of these pockets around the world where they have just a really natural, long-lived longevity lifestyle, and being active and walking and moving is a big part of that aspect that helps us live longer. And obviously, it's probably been mentioned a lot, but if you haven't heard it yet, if they could put exercise in a bottle, it would be the #1 blockbuster drug in the universe, and that would earn trillions of dollars because it does so many things for us, right? So just that aspect alone of just getting out and moving your body and exercising every day helps prevent heart disease, cancer, strokes, diabetes, everything that kills you. It helps prevent those things. So it's a miracle.
I'm loving that relationship connection, because I could also see it being great with your kids, right? Like, if is yes, coaching, I think, is anything you can do to bring down the barriers or bias or or just make people feel comfortable and safe and have it all come out. But I could totally see couples going for a walk even without speaking. Just the, like you said, the holding hands, the walking, the breathing is a great way to connect. Right, that back to Yusuf's, to go full circle,
It's an
back
energy
to
exchange.
the thought. Yeah, that energy exchange and that humanity. We
Absolutely.
need to now be more conscious and more intentional about not losing our humanity.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I'm really happy to have Dr. Lemon with us because we tend to think of walking or any physical activity only from the physical part of it,
mhm,
while it's often and it's never only a physical movement. It's an emotional, and the mental movement that goes along. Now, coming back to the relationship, I I see that often with everyone. I encourage my clients when some who started the coaching in motion with me, they came back to me and they said like, "Oh, I started working even more with my partner or with my kids, as you mentioned, or with my siblings, or because it's so simple, but we don't think of it often to do it with someone. Most of the
mhm.
time I see on the Rideau Canal on Ottawa, on the walking pathway, we have a beautiful walk pathway in Ottawa, and I see often people walking alone. There is nothing wrong with that, but
Yeah.
also there is another alternative that we can alternate between. I do works by myself when I need it, and also with other people when needed to create that bonding.
Yeah, the part that's a little hard for me that I find is the walking without being tempted to be on a chat, or to listen to a book or to listen to music, to just actually disconnect and do a mindful walk. And in Thich Nhat Hanh, because I'm the mindfulness stream of the WFM. Thich Nhat Hanh has a great little series of books, how to, and it's a tiny little book. We'll put the link. Is how to walk mindfully, and it's a great reminder, right, of that it can be active meditation, because meditating is not as easy as we think, right? If you're trying to meditate, you're not meditating. So to do it while walking or in motion is a great way to shift your energy, to and remember, it's all a choice, right? If you're feeling gloom, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling tense, you get the choice to do things to get yourself unstuck. So
Yeah.
we
And
will put a
I often tell my clients who are so used, like many of us nowadays, to the sound bites of our phones and our notifications, and I just tell them, let's try for just this 45 minutes to connect to the sound bites of our breathing and our hearts. And they come back to me and they say, when they started walking by themselves, they realized that they didn't think even of putting a podcast, their usual podcast or their music, because they just got used to really listen back to their body. And that's the meditative form of meditative walking, which is very, very, very powerful. And just to again insist that emotions are energy in motions. I strongly believe that. And when we feel stuck emotionally, the body becomes often still and it creates anxious. And we enter into that cycle. I'm not doing exercises, I'm not moving because I don't feel good or because I feel anxious. And then we started blaming the body. But the moment we start walking, so sometimes we'll do, as I said earlier, with some clients who are reluctant, say, okay, so just let's meet outside. We'll just walk for 10 minutes and then go sit in a coffee shop. And then the second time we walk for 30 minutes and we sit in a bench somewhere, and then the third time they don't ask to pause or to sit. They continue through the whole session. So it's really not to forcing ourselves again, like for anything we do and we talk about in the WOFM, it's really not going in a counterintuitive way, but really adapt to start from where it is comfortable for you, and then continue stretching it and expanding it, because the energy also, that's how it flows. So we can't go from this frequency to the highest one. We can stretch it through.
Working steps. Walk baby steps in your walking to moving your shifting your energy and frequency. We're going to put all the links below to the resources, how to get a hold of Youssef and his coaching motion. Of course, Dr. Lemmon's Biology of Hope, and all things WFM. Remember to subscribe to our magazine. It'll arrive in your inbox, and we will see you weekly. We have some amazing colleagues coming on to speak about the brain in the brain during menopause, the male brain, the female brain, and all brain things. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Looking forward to all the resources you mentioned. Until next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Youssef.